The Philosophy of Earthquakes, Natural and Religious by William Stukeley. To the Right Honourable the Earl of Macclesfield, President of the Royal Society, the amazing phenomenon of November 1st, 1755, being All Saints' Day, will prove a most memorable point in the current of time as long as the revolution of our globe measures it. The tremendous tragedy of the Lisbon earthquake presents us with a picture of all human woes accumulated. We should shudder at the description, which therefore I forbear. It began with a terrible rumbling noise as usual. The shocks heaved up the most ponderous edifices, and shaped them as branches of trees by the wind, to the infinite amazement of the inhabitants, who feared doomsday was at hand. The houses bent, or nodded to and fro, like the masts of ships, till they tumbled down, the upper parts of them first. So too the steeples, and the towers of churches. The ground and the streets danced under their feet as they fled. They expressed it by the terms of undulation and trembling. Sometimes it was so violent that they were obliged to lie down or kneel, not able to keep on their feet. The ships were likewise much agitated, the air in the perfect calm. The water in the river rose 20 or 30 feet several times. When so great and unusual a phenomenon as an earthquake happens among us, it will naturally excite a serious reflection in everyone that is capable of thinking, and we cannot help considering it, both in a philosophical and a religious view. Any mind will take the alarm when we perceive a motion that affects the earth, that bears the whole city of London, and some miles around it. We have found earthquakes chiefly directed to great cities and towns, so that if we believe Providence is concerned in the government of the world, we cannot help looking on them in the view of celestial monitions. Though we allow it to be the effect of a divine hand, that hand can work sufficiently by the means of the power of the electric stroke of the elemental fire spread through all nature, and that hand can direct the stroke, both as to the place and time, as best suits the purpose of a celestial monition. It is undoubtedly owing to the power of electricity exerted in the atmosphere, the same as makes thunder and lightning, meteors, auroras, and the like aerial appearances. The name of earthquake given by our ancestors was with much greater propriety than usually attended to, and carries evident tokens of its true and genuine cause. We have since lost sight of it by our descriptions derived from a preposition in favour of a wrong cause, fiery eruptions, vapours, gaping ground, and the like, whereas 'tis really a quaking or tremor only of the earth, of the surface of the earth, not like the rending and explosion of a mine of gunpowder at the siege of a town, which tosses up all before it, or above it, men, stones, and earth, into the open air. That these portents of nature always happen in a calm, in dry weather, that the cattle in the fields are frightened at it, that the prelude is a most horrible noise, that affects ducks and geese above water, fishes in the water, fowls in the yard, birds in the air, all shows an aerial cause. The same is pronounced of the sickness, vertigo and the like, seizing men and women, especially of weak constitutions in childbed, or lately handled with a disease. That a quarter of the globe was here affected at the same time, both land and ocean, Britain, Ireland, from Norway to Morocco and Barbados Islands, that bells rang in steeples, in houses, chandeliers vibrated in churches, that this effective power runs along rivers, seashores, touches maritime places chiefly. Indeed, all its appearances whatsoever, considering free from all prejudice, effectually discharge subterraneous fires, pirates and cinnabar from blame, and asserts the electrical shock its genuine cause. They that can fancy such fires running across the solid globe from Cornwall, under the ocean, to Barbados, to Portugal, Africa, Norway, are not to be argued with. In so surprising an effect as an earthquake, and so unaccountable a cause as electricity, a cause but recently considered, or known, is to be wondered at if some difficulties occur. Can we yet pretend to unriddle all the secrets of electricity, though we know some, and in my apprehension are sufficiently clear as to the effect before us? Some objections there are not insuperable. For instance, in electrical experiments the shock is single and momentary, but earthquakes are felt for some few minutes. But suppose the vibrations of an earthquake last 2 minutes. There can be no comparison between our little apparatus in experiments and the stroke upon 7 hills whereon Lisbon is built. The vibrations of musical strings are in proportion of their length and thickness, the same of bells and the like. There is no comparison between the snap in our little experiments and the shock upon the globe of the earth, whence the horrible noise rolling from one eminence to another, as in the air, the thunder is re-echoed from one cloud to another. Now again, some find difficulties from apertures in the earth and sinkings into the sea, so as to mountains opening and the rivers of water gushing out. Now I profess these instances move me not in the least, to derive them from the bowels of the earth. The electrical stroke from the atmosphere must divide a key and push it into the sea, or a street that stands on a cliff, as it divides rocks, cliffs, mountains, and tumbles them down. Some may object that if the earth was electrified on an earthquake, every person ought to feel it, as when touched in the electrical experiments. But we know the persons in the room where such experiments are tried are not necessarily electrified. Yet we find in earthquakes, in fact, many affected, as if electrified by sickness, and all kinds of animals are fully sensible of it, and extremely disturbed. Though the power that produces these amazing struggles in the elements be manifestly one and the same, yet it admits of some difference in its action, and points out some names of distinction. We may therefore denominate one of these appearances a waterquake, which exerts itself in the air and water, causing a most vehement agitation of that element. This appearance occurs in the middle of the ocean, on the land, and here and there accompanied with real shocks of an earthquake, wherever the earth is in electrical state. This phenomenon must acknowledge the same aerial origin. They that can fancy subterraneous boilings like culinary fire under all canals, lakes, rivers, seashores, and the ocean, affected at the same time, over a quarter of the globe, especially in the vessels of water prepared for brewing, are not to be argued with. A second kind we call properly the earthquake, a tremor of the surface of the earth. These undulations are boundless as to space, time, or violence, as far as the earth is prepared to receive them. It cannot be hard to observe that all considerations show the impossibility of a fire underground perpetrating these dire calamities of earthquakes. We must likewise affirm that the fire and the smoke of volcanoes is the effect of the electrical stroke, not the cause. Nor can there be any fire, low in the earth, where there is no conveyance of air. And though fires are found in the bottom of coal mines and the like, where the air can descend, yet we never hear of earthquakes caused by them. The third diversity I hold to be what we vulgarly call a waterspout, which is seen both on the water and on the land. 'Tis a partial exercise of the aerial power that lifts up the water in the ocean, rivers, wells, canals. In the accounts from Cadiz and other places, the water is seen coming from the great ocean, like a mountain, and when at the shore covering the land. And many of these like columns or ridges 50 or 60 foot high, succeeding one another, all these three kinds proceed from the same cause. The rationale of them we leave to the furthest disquisition, content to point out some of them and enumerate their species.